Good morning friends. Welcome to Galaxy Online Learning. I am Sunil Desai and we are going to study today a new subject, and that subject is going to be history of your social science. Okay, and today we are going to study chapter 1 of the third section. Those students who have the new edition, in that new edition, the chapters which are not in the syllabus have been deleted. Okay, and the old edition, all the chapters are there. So this is chapter 1 in the third section. In the old edition, the page number is 154, and the new edition you will have to find it on your own. Okay, so please find it and just open your textbook, page number 154 for the old edition. Okay. And once more, I would like to remind you, please keep a pencil ready so that you can underline the important terms, okay, what is important, as well as your queries you can just write out. Keep a notebook also ready. Okay, so let us come to the chapter Print Culture and the Modern World. Friends, as you know, today, everywhere you see, you get up in the morning, you see books around yourself, you see the calendar, the diary, the magazines, the newspaper, everywhere, and you think that it's just normal. Okay, it's a natural thing. You don't feel anything great about it. Okay, but a few centuries ago, this was not there. Okay, print was not available, was not there in print, and people only used to orally remember. They had to listen and then they had to remember things. Everything was oral. Okay, like today there was nothing printed. So that was, you feel a bit absurd. You just can't think about such a thing. But that was the case in reality. Okay, so the earliest kind of print technology, first print technology, it came in where? China, Japan and Korea. As you all know, paper was invented in China. Okay, so same way, the first print technology also was developed in China, Japan and Korea. The first system was the hand printing, and from AD 594, books in China were printed by rubbing paper on ink surfaces of wood blocks. Now I'll tell you what they used to do. You must have seen a rubber stamp in your school office or in your dad's office or in your mom's office. You must have seen a rubber stamp. A rubber stamp, there is a holder to the rubber stamp, and the rubber stamp has rubber alphabets engraved upon it. Okay. Similarly, what they used to do in China in AD 594 was that, suppose if this is a wooden block. Now consider this as a wooden block. They used to engrave letters on this. Okay, they used to engrave letters on this, and they used to put ink, just as the stamp you put it on an ink pad and then you press it on a paper. Similarly, they used to ink this surface and then they used to put it on the paper like this, put it and press it. So what happens when you lift this wood block? The ink print comes on this paper, right? Okay, and printing used to take place. Understood? So just like the rubber stamp, they used to print on the paper. Okay, just a moment. See, now this paper which was invented in China used to be very thin and very porous. So it was not possible to print on both sides. Now today we have printing on both sides, this side, okay. But it used to be, since it was very porous, you could not print on the other side, only one side. Okay. So therefore, the books were also folded and stitched on one side. So now, suppose if this is a book, if this is a book, then they used to, I'll just show you how they used to stitch it. Okay, they used to stitch it on one side, and like this. I'll just show you. Just see how it is. It is like an accordion, it is to open. Means you print it on this side, then on this side, then on this side, and you stitch this page to this page over here. Then this page used to be stitched on this side to this side like this, and the book used to open like a accordion. You must have seen the accordion, how the musician plays it. Similarly, the book used to be like an accordion. Okay. So the traditional Chinese accordion book was folded on and stitched at the side, and you needed a very skill. Now to engrave letters on a wood block, you need a very skilled craftsman, okay, who is a good calligrapher, because they used to write in the handwritten thing. You have to calligraph. There was nothing print, so someone used to write things in a calligraphy, you know, in the stylish letterings, okay. And the same thing, a craftsman had to engrave on that wooden block. Okay, so you need a very special skilled craftsman to engrave those letters on the wooden block. Okay. In China, it was the imperial state was the major producer of printed material. China was the major producer of printed material, and the imperial state of China, they used to sponsor it. Now, why China needed so much printing, whereas the whole world there was no printing at that time possible? In China, they started for the first time in 594, AD 594. Okay, so the major producer of printed material was China. And why was it necessary in China? Why did it start in China? Because China possessed a huge bureaucratic system. As you know, China is a big country, area-wise as well as in terms of population. Okay, and it was impossible for the the emperor of China to rule single-handedly. So he had many officers working for him in the whole of the country. These bureaucrats, they used to choose by the civil service examination. Okay, just like we have in India, IAS, okay, IPS. Similarly, they used to IAS, IPS. Similarly, they used to have civil services examinations at that time for the to choose the bureaucratic officers, the bureaucracy. Okay, the officers who used to administer the country. Okay, and to choose these officers, they used to have examinations, just like what we have in India today, UPSC examinations. Similarly, they used to have examinations, competitive examinations over there. And for these competitive examinations, many students used to give these scholars, literate people, they used to give this examination. And there were textbooks for this examination. And these textbooks were printed in China, and the government, the imperial government used to sponsor them. That was the reason why China was the major producer of printed material. This is very important. Remember this carefully, underline this. Okay? From the 16th century, the number of examination candidates went up. From the 16th century onwards, the number of people giving these examinations, it went up, and naturally the number of textbooks also increased. Okay, so this increased the volume of print. By the 17th century, what happened was that in China, urban culture started growing. Till then, it was a rural culture. But by 17th century, in China, urban culture, towns started coming up. So naturally, what happened? Previously, print was mainly used for exams, for education. But now the print diversified. Okay, because an urban culture came. Merchants started using print for their everyday life to get knowledge of things happening in other places. Okay, what were the rates, or for any other trade purposes. They started using print. Okay, they started collecting trade information through this print. So reading. Next thing was that since urban culture started blooming, reading increasingly became a leisure activity. Okay, in the leisure time. Okay, people started reading. The new leadership preferred, and what did this new leadership prefer? They preferred fictional narrative stories, poetry, autobiographies, anthologies of literary masterpieces. Okay, anthology means collection of literary masterpieces and romantic plays. Rich women, they had plenty of time with them because maids were there to do the household work. So, in the leisure time, they began to read, and many women even began to write. Okay, they started publishing their own poetries and plays. Wives of scholars, officials published their works, and courtesans wrote about their life. Okay, so a new reading culture started coming up in China, and with this new reading culture, a new technology also, new printing technology also started coming up in China. Western printing techniques and mechanical presses were imported. So in China there were hand printing, but by that time Industrial Revolution had also started taking place in Europe, and there in Europe they had started making metal printing presses, okay, mechanical presses, and these were imported by China. Many Western powers, they had established their outposts in China, and Shanghai in China became the new printing hub, okay, catering to Western style schools. So from hand printing there was now a gradual shift to mechanical printing. Okay. Now let us come to print in Japan. Now Buddhist missionaries, okay, Buddhist missionaries from China, they traveled to Japan, and along with them, when they traveled to Japan, along with them they took this knowledge of hand printing to Japan. Okay, so that will happen somewhere around 768 to 770. So hand printing technology started developing in Japan. The oldest Japanese book, printed in AD 868, 868 AD, the oldest Japanese printing book that was printed. The name of that book is the Buddhist Diamond Sutra. Remember this, it comes from 1 mark, okay, mostly as a 1 mark, it is a fill in the blank or MCQ. It is the Buddhist Diamond Sutra. It contains 6 sheets of text and woodcut illustrations. Illustrations were also made on them. Pictures were printed on textiles, on cloth, playing cards and paper money. In medieval Japan, poets and prose writers regularly published, and books were cheap and abundant, because now it was not just handwriting. Now, previously what they used to do, they used to handwrite, okay, and it used to take time. But now, since this wood printing came, okay, wood block printing, because of the wood block printing, books became more cheaper. Printing of visual material led to interesting publishing practices. In the late 18th century, in the flourishing urban circles at Edo, now you call it as Tokyo, okay, illustrated collections of paintings depicted an elegant urban culture involving artists, courtesans and tea house gatherings. Libraries and bookstores were packed with hand-printed material of various types. Which were the types? Like books on women, musical instruments, calculations, tea ceremony, flower arrangements, proper etiquette, cooking and famous places. Here in this you could see, sorry, here you can see on page number 154, there's a page of the oldest Japanese book, the Buddhist Diamond Sutra, and on page number 155 you see the painting. Just imagine how skilled the craftsman must be to carve it on a wooden block. The pictures, okay, they had from the original, they had to carve it on the wooden block. So what they used to do, they used to carve, that the original picture used to go waste because they had to put it on the wooden block and accordingly they had to do the carving. Okay, but see how skilled they were to carve. The painting is not an easy thing. So just imagine how skillfully they must be doing this. Okay, now slowly now we are going to see how print technology evolved. From manuscripts it became wood block printing, and wood block printing to today's digital printing. How printing has changed. That's what how it has been evolved. The history of printing. That's what we are going to study in this chapter. Okay. Now let us see how from China, Japan, how did the print came to Europe. How wood block printing, because until then no one knew in Europe to print. How did it come to Europe? That's what we are going to see. Before print technology went to Europe, you already know in your early standards you have already studied that there was a Silk Route, and through that Silk Route, silk as well as spices from China used to go from Asia used to go to European market. Through this Silk Route only, printing technology, wood block printing also went from China to Europe. Okay. See, paper already China had invented. Paper made it possible the production of manuscripts, means handwritten. People in Europe at that time were handwriting things. Okay, they were writing things. So it was very difficult to reprint those things. Okay, because if you want to prepare a book, you have to handwrite the whole book. A second copy of that book, again you have to handwrite it. Third copy of that book, same book, again someone has to handwrite it. So it was a tedious work and it used to take a lot of time. Okay. So in Europe at that time it were manuscripts written by hand. Then in 1295, this is 1295, Marco Polo, the great explorer who had been to China and who had driven in China for many years. He had explored a lot of China. You must have heard about Marco Polo in your previous standards, okay, in 8th standard, 9th standard. Marco Polo, the great explorer, he came back. He was from Italy and he returned to Italy, okay. And when he returned to Italy, he brought along with him the knowledge of wood block printing, okay. So this knowledge of wood block printing came through Marco Polo from China to Italy, and Italy is in Europe, you already know. So this is the way wood printing came to Europe. So now Italians began producing books with wood blocks. Now they got the knowledge, the Italians, and they also now, instead of manuscripts, instead of writing in hand, now they also started producing books with wood block. And soon the technology spread all over Europe. Since Italy is in Europe, through Italy it spread all over Europe. Still then, luxury editions of a book were still handwritten on expensive vellum. Vellum means, you know what is vellum? Vellum is a skein, a rectangular or square piece of skein, mostly of goats or sheep. Okay, it has been cleaned, and before that we used to write on the skein. Okay, so the rich people, the elite people in Europe, they didn't like this paper or printing with wood block on a paper. They used to consider this as a vulgar thing. Okay, and they said that we are aristocratic people, we are elite people, so we want books to be written on vellum, on the skin of the code, and handwritten on the skin. So luxury edition was still made in Europe, on vellum. Whereas merchants and students, they started using this printed copies, wood block printed copies on paper. They started using this. As the students and merchants started using this, the demand for books increased. So booksellers all over Europe began exporting books to many different countries. Books fairs were held. You know what a book fair is, The book fairs were held at different places. Production of handwritten manuscripts was also organized in new ways to meet the expanded demand. But at the same time, the elite, they wanted handwritten scripts, that is the manuscript. So demand for manuscript was also there. So the production for handwritten scripts also increased. Scribe or skilled handwriters were no longer solely employed by wealthy people, but also by booksellers. So booksellers, what they did, they used to hire scribes. Scribes means those who write books. So these people who used to write, handwrite books, they were employed not only by the rich elite people. They were employed also by booksellers, and some booksellers employed 50 booksellers at a 50 scribes at a time. They used to do what their work was to handwrite books. So suppose if you have 50 scribes working for you, for a bookseller, he could get 50 copies of one book at a time, because each of the person is writing a book. The same book is written by 50 people at the same time. So by the end, you get 50 copies ready. So they can sell those 50 copies at a time. So booksellers started employing scribes. But the production of handwritten manuscripts could not satisfy the ever-increasing demand for books. But still there were limitations. So each person, he has to handwrite it in a very artistic way. It should look good. That person should have a very good hand. Then only it will be readable. So though the booksellers employed many scribes to write books, still then the demand was increasing, because copying was an expensive, laborious and time-consuming business. Manuscripts were fragile very manuscripts, and awkward to handle. It was very difficult to handle manuscripts. And you could not carry them around very easily. So their circulation was limited. With the growing demand for books, woodblock printing gradually became more and more popular. So it was better to do woodblock printing rather than writing, because when you just press one woodblock, you get the whole page written on it. So it was much easier. So wood printing became more popular because the demand for books was increasing. By the early 15th century, woodblocks were being widely used in Europe to print textiles, playing cards, and religious pictures with simple, brief text. So, what happened was that woodblock printing increased in it became more popular in whole of Europe. Not only books, textiles, playing cards, pictures were also printed with the help of woodblock printing. There was a great need for even quicker and cheaper reproduction of text. But still then, that was not enough. The demand was more and the production of books was less. So people were looking for something new way of printing, and a breakthrough came. Okay, this breakthrough occurred at Strasbourg in Germany, where Johann Gutenberg developed the first known printing press in 1430. Underline this. Okay, Johann Gutenberg developed the first known printing press in the 1430s. So one more question. Okay. Now let us study about Gutenberg and his printing press. Gutenberg was a, here you see his picture on the page. Is there his picture? His photo. Gutenberg was the son of a merchant and he grew up on a large agricultural estate. And on this agricultural estate, he used to grow grapes and olive. So they had presses to prepare wine and olive oil. So grapes and olive were pressed. So he had seen the presses, how the press works. Subsequently, he learned the art of polishing stones. He became a master goldsmith, not just a goldsmith, a master goldsmith. Okay, he had learned the art of polishing stones, precious stones. He also acquired the expertise to create lead molds used for making trinklets. Trinklets, you know, small golden jewelry or small things we do. Prepare as trinklets. How they are prepared? They are prepared by pouring gold in small lead molds, very small molds made up of lead. So he learned that too. He got an expertise in preparing those lead molds. Okay, where you prepare trinklets. Okay. Drawing on this knowledge, Gutenberg adapted existing technology to design his innovation. What was the innovation? The printing press. He had knowledge about the press which were used in his farm to press olive and grapes. Then he was the goldsmith. He knew how to polish stones. Then he also had the knowledge to prepare those small lead molds. So he used all this knowledge to prepare his first printing press. Okay. So by 1448, Gutenberg had perfected the system of the printing press. He used those molds to prepare those metal types of the letters which he can stick it on the press. Okay, so that when you apply ink to that press and you rub it on a paper, you get what do you get? You get the same matter on the paper. So it is printed on the paper. Okay. So the first book which he printed was the Holy Bible. And he printed 180 copies of the Bible for the first time. Okay. And for these 180 copies, what was the time he required? He took 3 years to print those 180 copies. But taking 3 years to print those 180 copies of the Bible was also very fast in those standards. 3 years for 180 copies means for per month he was printing on an average 5 copies. Now just imagine the way we are printing today. In minutes we print 180 copies. In minutes. But at that time printing 180 copies in 3 years was a very, very fast thing to be done. Okay? So the new technology came into force, and this was the printing press. It was fast by that standards. Okay. Now the printing books at first closely resembled the written manuscripts in appearance and layout. The metal letters imitated the ornamental handwritten styles. What they used to do when they used to prepare those molds, they used to imitate the handwritten styles. Okay, so the books also look like they have been handwritten. Then they only printed the text, the illustrations or the borders of the books were hand painted. Okay, depending on the person who's going to buy the book. What was his choice? Accordingly, they used to hand print the illustrations or the borders. Okay, and they used to keep space. Now I'll show you over here. Now, this is a page of the Bible which Gutenberg had prepared. Here you see an illustration. Here there is an illustration. Okay, these were not printed. They were painted by hand. Again, this square thing, this square, this, they used to keep an open space for this, and that used to be painted by hand. Okay. So, and that painting were done according to the purchaser. Okay, what the purchaser's needs. The purchaser used to choose the design, and accordingly they used to print it or paint it. Sorry. In the 100 years between 1450 to 1550, printing presses were set up in most countries of Europe. Printers from Germany traveled to other countries seeking work and helping start new presses. Okay, since Gutenberg was a German, and he started his press in Germany. So first printing press started in Germany, and then Germans were asked to come in other countries in Europe to start a printing press. As the number of printing presses grew, book production also increased. It boomed, book production. Okay, the second half of the 15th century saw 20 million copies of printed books selling in the market. See, that was a very good sign. Okay, 20 million copies in the second half of the 15th century, that is the market, and the number went up to 200 million in the 16th century. Okay, in 15th century there were 20 million copies, and in the 16th century it went up to 200 million copies. This shift from hand printing to mechanical printing led to the print revolution. Just imagine how much change it had been to the people over there. First, it was the handwritten thing, people writing script. It is taking such a long time. Then came the woodblock printing. Till then, the space of preparing books or producing books was less. But now with the printing press, more and more printing press starting up in Europe, the number of books coming into the market had increased, and by the 16th century you had 200 million copies in the market. Okay, here you see the Mr. Gutenberg and his printing press is given, is shown over here. Okay, and here on the page next to it you see the picture of the printing press, how the printing press used to be. There was you could see in the picture, what you see is the printer shop. There is, under one roof there are different works done. Okay, one is a compositor, is composing the book. Okay, then there is one who is using a press. Others, someone is using proofreading. After printing, they have to read whether the proofreading, what you call it, means whether there is any mistake in the printing. Okay, so this is the way the printing press was running in Europe at that time. Okay, and with this we end today's lecture. Okay, this lecture, and we'll be back with what in the next lecture we are going to study the print revolution and its impact on social life. We saw how printing came forward from the handwriting books to the printing press. In the next lecture we are going to study how this printing revolution had an impact on the social life. Thank you.